Cutting back to year 1998, Indian Navy planners came together and studied the then prevalent security situation and what lies ahead. The submarine wing of the Indian Navy knew what the future will look like and started working on a 30-year submarine building plan. The plan, which got approved in 2000 by the then NDA government, envisaged building 24 submarines by 2030. Cut to 2024. The Navy has inducted only 5 submarines of the 24 planned, and the 6th one will be inducted soon. The 6 are the Scorpion class submarines, which have seen a huge time delay and escalation cost. The submarine is being jointly manufactured by French firm DCNS, which is now known as the Naval Group, and the Indian state-run shipyard MDL. The Indian Navy is now in the midst of finalizing the P-75 India or the P-75I, under which 6 conventional submarines are to be built with AIP technology. What is AIP? Now, AIP allows the conventional submarines to stay underwater for long. This means that the submarine wouldn't have to resurface every 2 to 3 days to charge its batteries. Because of the AIP, it can stay underwater for anywhere from 14 days to 21 days at a go. The entire project, that is the P-75I, hangs on Navy's insistence on a sea-proven AIP system. The reason why the Indian Navy insisted on the AIP is that it wanted to ensure DRDO does not come in between and say they will manufacture the AIP. The constant rule among the armed forces is that no matter what the project is, DRDO will always raise their hands up, saying they can deliver and give a very attractive deadline. For example, an indigenous AIP developed by the DRDO was to be integrated into the 5th and the 6th Scorpion class submarines, but it has been delayed. Now the plan is to integrate the AIP when the first Scorpion class submarines comes in for refit next year. However, it is unlikely to get the AIP because AIP is not a simple plug and play system. The submarine has to be cut, new compartment created, and the schedule for the refit is prefixed. So let's wait and see if the first refit will see an AIP or not. But the AIP technology is the key point of contention for the P-75I program also. The Indian Navy had shortlisted 2 Indian shipyards for the project, that is the state-run MDL and the private shipyard L&T. Now this program is being pursued under strategic partnership, a program initiated by the Narendra Modi government to push participation of the private sector. Given the fact that strategic partnership had clauses which made the OEM, that is the original equipment manufacturer, responsible for delays and accidents and put heavy cost on them, despite the main contractor being the Indian shipyard, Russia's Rubin Design Bureau, Sweden's Saab, pulled out. Since the Naval Group, that is a French company, did not have the AIP, they were anyway not part of the contenders. Only left were the TKMS, which had an AIP, Navantia, which had developed its own AIP and is to be integrated into a new submarine for the Spanish Navy, and South Korea's Daewoo shipyard, which had German AIP technology which they have worked on and made into their own. However, the South Korean shipyard was being acquired by another company and hence stayed out of the bidding process. Only left were the Germans and the Spanish. Interestingly, the German TKMS was not keen on the project, even though they had partnered with L&T initially. It was actually the L&T which negotiated with the Indian Navy, which after due processes dilute some of the contentious issues since it feared no OEM would come forward. The Spanish were talking to the MDL but had still not committed. However, right from the very beginning, anyone who knew the RFP requirements knew that it would suit the Germans the most. However, there was a fear that Germans could end up being a single vendor, and that is when the Germans moved from L&T to MDL, thinking the safest bet since it is state-run. And remember that TKMS came on board only after the German government stepped in. Now anyway, coming back to the AIP, the Indian Navy carried out the field evaluation trial of both AIP technologies. and the team has sent the report to the Naval Headquarters, which is in the process of finalizing this and sending it to the MOD for further processes. And this is where this deal gets into troubled waters, or I should say, murky waters. The print has learned that neither company during the FET was able to present a proven AIP of the size and capacity the Navy had mentioned in its request for proposal, that is the RFP documents. While Navantia's AIP parameters come closest to the Navy's requirements, its first submarine with the technology will only be out in 2026, a fact that the Indian authorities knew from the very beginning. Navantia showcased its AIP using a mix of land and onboard systems for the FET, but it is now up to the Navy to decide if it considers this proven, even though the system has undergone over 50,000 hours of testing and has been selected by the Spanish Navy. The AIP showcased by the TKMS was smaller than what the Navy wanted. This is because the AIP is fitted on board the Type 214 submarines, which are smaller than the ones required by the Navy and hence need a smaller pack of the AIP system. Now this means that the TKMS will have to develop a bigger AIP system. Interestingly, the fuel cell batteries on board the German submarines are manufactured by a different firm, and TKMS has offered its own for the Indian contract, which means that the battery performance will have to be tested again. Now, sources say that both companies don't meet the complete requirements as sought by the Indian Navy in the RFP, but both are good and can deliver. The Spanish would be a faster one since they already have the larger SAT class and were inducted into the Spanish Navy and will undergo minor design tweaks. The TKMS, on the other hand, will have to design the submarine completely afresh. Now, Navantia uses the latest generation bioethanol stealth technology for its AIP with bioethanol as a fuel, making it environmentally friendly and easy to refuel as bioethanol is easily available across the world. Bioethanol's availability makes it easy to refuel an AIP plant at any port without needing specialized hydrogen refueling systems, unlike the previous generation AIP plants offered by the TKMS, which require handling of pure hydrogen. Navantia's AIP plant is also relatively safer as hydrogen is produced on demand and not stored on board, unlike the other technology where hydrogen is stored and carried in the form of metal hydrides. Navantia's AIP plant has been cleared by the Spanish Navy for installation on board its third SAT class submarine, thereby demonstrating the technological readiness of the system. Irony is the hydrogen absorption time in a metal hydride, which is about 24 to 72 hours with pure, that is, less than 99.9% hydrogen. Such a plant on a jetty will mean the sub will have to be fueled at isolated berth as any leak would never be visible. Any flame or hydrogen explosion would be devastating. Such berth hardly exist in the naval docks as they have multiple ships and submarines any given point of time on the limited number of jetties. So if you go to any port, it is normal to see 3 to 4 docked side by side and one behind the other. Also, hydrogen that can be observed is 1.7 to 1.8% by weight of the hydride. This means carrying 50 times more weight in hydride form per 1 unit weight of real fuel. This limits the size of AIP and boat that can be built with metal hydride as hydrogen source. Also, it limits the range of the submarine and endurance. In our environment, in an Indian environment, even if an inadvertent smoker or a cell phone charger switching on and off could create a spark that can prove to be disastrous with pure hydrogen on a jetty. In ethanol, 50% is hydrogen and balance is carbon and oxygen that gets split in tiny reformer on board the submarine, obviating the need to store any hydrogen and avoid fire and explosion risk. Also allows larger boats and longer endurance. Now, Navantia says that the SAT's AIP endurance is for 21 days and can be tweaked to make larger just by adding an ethanol tank specifically to suit mission requirements. While both TKMS and Navantia have bid for the project, the German will have to design a completely new submarine for the Navy, whereas the Spanish are offering the latest SAT class of submarines inducted into the Navy in 2023. The SAT class is among the latest conventional submarines in the world, With a displacement of 3,000 tons and a hull diameter of 7.2 meters, it is almost identical to the Indian Navy specifications. Given the size and space, the submarine packs a staggering level of automation, enabling the entire submarine to operate it by a significantly smaller crew strength than smaller submarines. Now, sources in the Indian Defence Establishment admitted that the SAT class would require minimal redesign for the program, unlike the other platforms in the fray, as its design and specifications are closest to the P-75I requirements. Now, sources said that the FET was undertaken after the bids by both the German and Spanish companies were technically cleared by the Navy. It is learned that the Spanish submarine maker has now written to the Navy and the Indian Defense Ministry arguing that there should be a price discovery, meaning that the bids of both firms should be opened up rather than just going by the FET. The question is whether it will be based on FET on which the decisions would be taken, since both companies have technically not met. Now, the question is whether the selection of the OEM would be based on the FET, because technically both companies have not met the RFP requirements, or will there be a price discovery? Price discovery would mean opening of the bids and seeing which is the cheapest, the fastest, and someone who is able to transfer the maximum technology. Because remember, India would need this for Project 76, under which conventional submarines are to be built completely indigenously. For The Print, this is Snehesh Alex Philip. Do subscribe to The Print's YouTube channel for more such videos.